Most agencies think their capabilities deck is helping them win clients, when in reality, it's killing their pitch before it even starts. If your agency isn't winning enough work, it's probably because you're presenting what you do in the wrong way. But I mean, why should you listen to what I have to say? Well, my name is Lindsay Christian, and I've designed hundreds and hundreds of decks, and I now have a six-figure agency dedicated exclusively to creating capabilities decks that win more clients. After working with tons of agencies of all sizes, I truly know what it takes to create a capabilities deck that converts. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through slide by slide how to create a capabilities deck that shows what you do, why it matters, and why your agency is the best choice. From the first impression to the final call to action, each slide is crafted to do one thing: move your prospects closer to saying yes. And be sure to stick around until the end, because I'm going to give you the number one mistake I see agency owners make when it comes to their capabilities deck that's killing their sales. And I'll show you exactly how to avoid it. So the first page is your cover page. This is a key page because it sets the tone for the entire deck. You have about 5 seconds to get a prospect to see your cover page and want to read more about your agency. And I'll tell you, most agency owners completely miss an opportunity here. They usually start with a dull cover page that says, capabilities deck, or has their logo or contact information on it, but none of that tells your prospect anything. The version I'm going to give you completely flips that on its head and starts with a powerful cover page that shows your prospect how they can win by working with your agency. So why is this page so important? Well, obviously it's the first page, your first impression in the cover, but if a prospect doesn't see what they want or what's in it for them, they could mentally check out before the deck is even opened. So let's talk about what goes on this slide. I like to keep it super simple. A bold, benefit-driven headline that directly shows the prospect what they get by working with you and what's in it for them. And then a clear, short tagline that shows how you make it happen. So let me give you an example. Let's say we're working with a fictitious agency that does PR for restaurants. Their headline could be something like "From empty tables to fully booked." And their tagline could be something like "Restaurant PR that fills seats and makes headlines." Now, if you want, you can include your logo on this page, but I wouldn't include anything else. I like to keep it simple. No links, no contact information, nothing to distract the prospect from your key message. And essentially, the cover page is your promise. If you nail it, your prospect will want to open your deck, read more, and learn more about how your agency can deliver on the promise. So let's talk about the next slide. I like to call this slide the problem statement slide. This slide is super important because before you introduce your services, it's important that the prospect understands that you get it. You get their challenges, you get the world that they're living in, and you get what keeps them up at night. So why does this slide even matter? Because it creates trust and it builds emotional tension with your prospect. Essentially, you're helping them realize, yes, that's my exact struggle, the exact problem that I'm having. And you need to show them that you understand their problem before they'll believe that you have the solution. So let's talk about what goes on this slide. I like to start with a problem statement or question that resonates with the prospect. So in the case of our PR agency that does PR for restaurants, it could be something along the lines of, is a spot down the street packed while you're struggling to fill tables? So that question immediately creates tension and highlights the most likely reason why the prospect is coming to this agency: to get more buzz, to get more hype around the restaurant so they can get more reservations and more traffic through the door. And then I like to build urgency with a short paragraph that creates even more tension and makes the problem seem even more urgent. So in the case of our PR agency, the short description could be something along these lines. Owners often feel frustrated when they see inferior restaurants getting more attention. Great restaurants don't always win, but great marketing does. A competitor with a weaker menu or less talented chef might be thriving simply because they know how to generate buzz. So again, this creates tension with the prospect, kind of connects with how they're feeling, maybe frustrated, confused. They know they have a great restaurant, a great menu, and somehow it's just not converting to buzz and traffic and filled tables. So the last component of this slide is a promise that leads you to your solution. So the promise is important because it connects the problem that you've identified with your services, which are the solution, which you'll present on the next slide. So in the case of our PR agency, it could be something along the lines of, the right PR strategy levels the playing field. That's where we come in. So as you can see, this is the way to connect the problem statement and the tension that you've created and the urgency with your services and solution, which we'll present on the next slide. Slide number 3 is what I call the what we do slide. This is where you introduce your agency as a solution to their problem. But it isn't just about dumping a long list of services. It's about reconnecting what you do to the outcome that the prospect wants. That's always going to be the common theme on every slide. So, why does this slide even matter? Because this is where you make it clear that problem they have, this is what you solve every single day. This is what your agency does, and this is what you specialize in. So, let's talk about specifically what goes on this slide. I like to start with a benefit driven headline. This just connects again what you do to the outcome the prospect wants. So, for our PR agency, for example, it could be something along the lines of turn your restaurant into a must visit destination. So, that obviously connects back to what the prospect is looking for, which is a busy restaurant, fully booked, that everyone wants to go to. So, the next section I like to include is a short description of your approach, something that again ties back to the outcome that the prospect is looking for. So, in the case of our PR agency, it could be something along the lines of we don't do generic press, we engineer attention. Our campaigns position your restaurant at the center of culture where critics rave, influencers line up, and customers can't stop talking. So, again, this is kind of an overarching look at a lot of the services that they provide packaged in a compelling way that ties back to the overall goal for the prospect, which is, people in the door, filled tables. And then the last component of this slide is the actual list of services. These can be accompanied with a small description if you want, but I like to keep this short and sweet so prospects can clearly see one at a time what services you offer. And I like to keep the number of services to maximum 6, just to keep it simple and easy for the prospect to digest. I see tons of agencies that'll have long pages of services, long lists of services, and get super granular. But again, that tends to overwhelm prospects. You want to keep it short, to the point, and clear so that they understand high level what they can get by working with you. So for our PR agency, for example, this could be something along the lines of media relations, influencer outreach, event planning, crisis management, and social media strategy. So this is just something I pulled together, but as you can see, those are 5 super clear categories that the prospect will understand, they can make sense of it, and it won't be confusing as to what they would be getting or what kind of services they could expect if they were working with this agency. And just a reminder that I did create a guide that goes into a little bit more depth on each slide and also includes this example copy. So be sure to grab it down in the description below. So let's move to slide number 4. This is what I call the who we do it for slide. And this is where you want to get them to feel like you work with clients just like them all the time. So let's talk about what goes on this slide. Again, a bold headline about who you work with. And you'll definitely see a common trend across all these slides that they start with a headline. And a quick little segue, that's because typically people go for the biggest, boldest headline copy first and then move down into the sub copy if they're interested, if they want to keep learning more. So I like to always encapsulate the concept of the entire slide with a big bold headline, just in case that's the only part of the slide that they're reading. They're still getting the entire gist of the slide without having to read the subcopy. So in the example of our PR agency, their headline could be something along the line of, we work with restaurants that want to dominate the food scene and make headlines. So just quick, simple, and to the point so that the prospect can identify with the statement and say, yes, that's me. So right below the headline, I'd like to have a short description that just, again, reinforces the headline and goes a little bit deeper into the types of clients you work with. So for the example of our PR agency, it could be something along the lines of, whether you're opening your doors for the first time or reinventing your brand, we craft PR strategies that turn dining experiences into cultural moments. And then the last element of this slide is obviously your logo quilt. This is a huge piece to the capabilities deck puzzle, and I like to bring it early because it really does one thing: it builds credibility. Including all the logos of the past clients that you work with really allows your prospect to say, okay, they've worked with these brands, they work with brands like mine, they might recognize some of those logos, and it's just a huge credibility builder, which is why I like to bring it in early on slide 4. And so the goal is for the client to see themselves in your client list and to think, this is the exact agency that we need to be working with. So let's move on to the next slide. This is another important one. This is your best case study. And contrary to a lot of capabilities decks that you might see out there, or what I would consider the norm for capabilities decks, I don't like to group case studies all at the back of the deck. I like to bring the first one in early. As you can see, this is the fifth slide in the deck. And again, this is allowing your prospects to see the kind of results you can get early in the deck without them having to go through page after page after page. So this page really matters because it turns skepticism into belief by showing the results that you're really able to achieve. It also allows a client to see themselves in your past successes. So if they can relate to the case study, they can begin to see and feel the types of results that you'll be able to get for them. And a pro tip, it's really great if this case study can be from one of the bigger, more recognizable logos on your logo quilt. That's going to make the credibility connection even stronger because the prospect is saying, hey, I recognize that big brand. Oh, you've done work for that brand. Okay, here's the actual example of the work that you've done and the results you were able to get from them. That's a big credibility trust builder that works every single time. So let's talk about what goes on this slide. We follow a very strict formula that takes you from the headline, an outcome focused headline, all the way through a testimonial, all on one page. Because as opposed to grouping work by type, for example, we do logos and here's a portfolio page of logos. We do websites and here are a bunch of websites. We find that prospects connect a lot more to the full picture and the full scope of work that you did for one client, and seeing that all on one page and understanding holistically what you did for that client helps them connect better to the results that you can get for them. So that's why we structure our case studies in the way that I'm about to show you. So the first piece is the headline. This is where you highlight the transformation that you got for the client. So the next thing we like to talk about is the results. So these are the results that you got for the client. And again, this is something I do a little bit differently from the typical case study you might see out there right now. But I like to bring the results in early so that the prospect is going from the outcome that is highlighted in the headline to the actual metrics, results, real business impact that you were able to get for the client. So the next part is the challenge. This is where you explain the problem that your client was facing. And again, this is important because if your prospect can see themselves in that challenge, you're building more trust. And again, you're reconnecting them to the work that you do and the results and the impact that you're able to create. Next, our role. So this is where you outline what your agency did to solve the problem. Again, this is equivalent to positioning your agency as a solution. So you're talking through your role in getting to that solution for the client. And the last element is the testimonial. And this is a big one. This is something I do a little bit differently than most case studies I've seen, but I like to bring the testimonial from that client and put it right on the case study page so that they can essentially validate all of this great work and these results that you're talking about. This is a huge credibility builder that humanizes the case study for the prospect. So now the prospect is seeing the headline, the transformation, the outcome and the result that you were able to get. And now they're also connecting that to a real human being just like them that made the decision to work with your agency and was thrilled with the results that they got. So I'm a big advocate for getting testimonials from clients and putting those testimonials right on the case study page to really validate and humanize the result you were able to get for that client. And so all of these elements combined, the headline, the results, the challenge, our role, the testimonial, this structure helps you tell a concise, high impact story that moves from pain, whatever the client was suffering from, to transformation and shows your agency as the clear reason for that change. And just a reminder, I always like to start with the strongest case study first so that the prospect doesn't have to go through too many pages in your deck to see the results that you're able to get. Now, because case studies tend to be a little bit more text heavy, I'm not going to go through all of the example copy for our PR agency. But again, you can grab the resource link down below, and that has all the example copy for this slide so that you can see how it all comes together to create a compelling case study. So the next slide is one I like to call what's in it for them. And this is where you want to make the ROI of working with you crystal clear. So at this point in the pitch, the prospect understands what you do, who you do it for, and they have proof that you can get the results that you say you can. So now it's really about driving home what success looks like for them if they work with your agency. If your prospect sees what they want clearly listed on this page, you've done your job. So let's talk about what goes on this slide. I first like to start with yes, another headline, a bold, outcome centered headline that paints a picture of success. This should immediately reinforce the benefit of working with your agency and should answer the question, what's in it for me? So, for example, with our PR agency, this could be something like from buzz to bookings, we turn attention into action. So, again, this is similar to the other headlines, but it's a little bit more action oriented and implies that they don't just generate buzz, they generate buzz that converts into actual people visiting your restaurant. So, again, it's tweaked a little bit and it's keeping the prospect engaged and excited about what's to come. Then I like to do another short description that clearly summarizes the value of your services. So for the PR agency, this could be something like our clients aren't just looking for PR. They want fully booked weekends, buzz that drives repeat traffic, and media coverage that cements their brand in the minds of diners and critics alike. That's what we deliver. So just taking it up a notch as far as the real value that your agency can deliver and how that value translates back to the outcomes that the prospect wants. And then finally, the most important section on this page, I call it the Our Clients Benefit From section. This is where you list 3 to 4 value propositions of working with your agency. So again, the copy here can get a little bit longer because essentially you'll list a punchy title for each of the value propositions and then maybe a little bit blurb to expand on them. So I'm not going to read the blurb piece, but for our PR agency, these 4 value propositions could be our clients benefit from consistently booked tables, influencer buzz that converts, media coverage that builds authority, and long-term brand equity. So you want to have those bold and highlighted on the page and really standing out. And then as I mentioned, you can have a blurb to kind of dive a little bit more into those. And again, if you grab the guide link down below, I include all the copy for these slides. But the key here is to have our clients benefit from and then to list those key value propositions. And that's just important because it connects the prospect to the same benefits that they would be able to get if they work with your agency. So if you've done your job on this slide, your prospects are no longer curious. They're sold on the services, and now it's time to show them why you're the only agency that can deliver. But before we get to that, I'd like to drop in another case study. So this is where you reinforce your credibility with another success story and show that your results were repeatable and reliable. Again, that first win, it wasn't a fluke. You're able to get results for clients consistently. So you really want to bring in your second case study here to keep the momentum going and to keep building that credibility with your prospect. And bonus points here if you can bring in a case study that has a slightly different result. Maybe the first one was about social media engagement. This one is about revenue growth. Obviously, it depends on your agency and the type of work you do, but the idea is to show a variety of results so that the prospect has different opportunities to connect with and relate to, the client that you're focusing on and the results you were able to get for them. Essentially, you want the prospect to think if they've done it for them, they can do it for us. And the more case studies you show, that gives the prospect more opportunities to feel that way. And this case study should follow the same format as the first case study and all of the rest of the case studies in the deck. So headline, results, challenge, our role, and testimonial. So the next slide is arguably the most important slide in your capabilities deck. I call this the why choose you slide. So at this point, the prospect knows what you do, who you do it for, and the results you can get for them. And now they're asking one very important question. Why should they hire your agency over any other agency that offers these same services? And that's what makes this slide so important because if done properly, this is where you seal the deal. But in order to do that, you need to draw a clear line between you and everybody else. So let's talk about what goes onto this page. You guessed it, another headline. I like to start with a headline that reinforces why no one else can deliver what you do. And then follow it up with another short description that proves that your advantage isn't just different, it's unmatched. So, for example, with our PR agency, the headline in the description could be something like this: built in the industry, trusted by the people who shape it. And then the description could be: we didn't build this agency from a boardroom. We built it from the dining room, the kitchen line, the after hours shift, and the industry group chat. Our approach isn't templated, it's lived. We know what it takes to build buzz that actually moves the needle because we've done it from the inside out. So in this example, the PR agency is leveraging the fact that they have, they were born in the restaurant industry. They have a lot of restaurant industry experience. They've kind of lived it from the inside out. And that's a very unique differentiator that a lot of other PR agencies probably don't have. If they've just done PR their entire existence and maybe now they're diving into the restaurant industry, that's very different than people who came from the industry itself and decided to launch a PR company. So that's just an example of a type of differentiator that you could use. So identifying differentiators definitely takes time and thought. You really need to think through your agency, what makes you different, your origin story, your expertise, your background. You might also want to identify gaps in the market that maybe other competitors aren't filling. So this slide can take some time, but again, as I mentioned, if done properly, this one really seals the deal with the prospect because it really does differentiate you from everybody else. And it says to the prospect, if they want to get these specific results, they need to work specifically with you. So the last section on this slide is what I like to call the why us section. Again, these are kind of bulleted, big ticket differentiators that you can highlight on the page. You can include a blurb to kind of expand on them a little bit more if you want to. Again, I won't read the blurbs for this our agency, but they are included in the guide that you can grab down below. This section would read, why us? Industry bred, not agency made. Insider access, culinary fluency, and our metric is cultural stickiness. So those are four key differentiators. For example, industry bred, not agency made. We kind of spoke to that already. That's where they're bringing like insiders from the restaurant industry. And these insiders have then decided to go into PR. So they really have that insider knowledge. Insider access implies that because of their experience in the restaurant industry, they have a lot of relationships and connections that other agencies or competitors might not have. Culinary fluency. This is where they understand the restaurant community. They understand the food community. Maybe they have their finger on the pulse of trends and what's next because they've been in it and they're tapped into that community. Then for our metric is cultural stickiness. This is where they're honing in on the importance that they place on not just quick buzz, one hit wonder, but that they're really trying to build restaurants that have longevity and brands that stand the test of time, which again is another differentiator from maybe agencies that are focused on, shorter term buzz or big spikes in buzz or opening weekends or things like that. This agency is implying that they want to work with these restaurants to really build their brand loyalty for a long time. And so to close out this slide, because it is super, super important and really is arguably the most important slide in the deck, it's important to remember that choosing an agency is all about trust. This is the moment where you're really changing their mindset from, should we work with them to we'd be crazy not to work with them. That's the power of this slide and really creating those differentiators from everybody else in the industry that you're working in. So those were the core pages of your deck. And now we can kind of get into additional case studies and some optional pages that you could include depending on your goal, depending on the type of prospects you're pitching. So again, all of the case studies should be formatted with that same structure: headline, results, challenge, our role, testimonial. That's going to ensure that each case study provides a really holistic look in what you did for each client and just really packs a punch in terms of driving home the real business impact and what the prospect could expect when working with you. Then there are a few optional slides that you can include. I'm going to go through them pretty quickly here, but the guide below goes into them a little bit in more detail, so be sure to grab that in the description. The first one is the how you do it slide. And essentially, this is just where you show your process so the prospect understands what it's like to work with you. The next slide is the who you are slide. This is where you can introduce your team, your founders, and even talk a little bit about your mission. Again, this is something I do differently. A lot of decks will have these types of slides closer to the front of the deck. I like to move them to the back of the deck. That way, you're kind of selling the prospect, they're seeing their outcome, they're seeing the results that they want, and now they're interested in working with you. And now you're able to kind of bring in the team, who you are, and speak to kind of the people behind those results, what their credentials are, etc. And then finally, pricing. Now, this can be a controversial slide. Some people like to have this, some people don't like to have this. I think this can be a really powerful slide if you want to pre qualify people on price in the pitching process, which I know is important for some agency owners. But again, this is an optional slide. You don't have to bring in prices early. This could even be a standalone slide that you use later in the pitching process, but just a slide to think about as you're kind of building out the entire deck. And now let's talk about the final slide in your deck, the call to action slide. At this point in the deck, your prospect's interested, they know what you can do, they're sold on the results. And so now they want to know what's next. How do I make this happen? How do I take the next step? I like to keep things super simple on this slide. You just have a short action-driven headline and one clear call to action, which is a clickable link or button. So for our PR agency, this could be something along the lines of make your restaurant the one everyone's talking about. Book a call. Clean, simple, no confusion, just one easy path forward. And in the guide you can grab down below, I did include a few additional examples so you can just see different types of copy that you could use on this page, but the structure is the same. A simple, clear headline and then a clickable link or button below that takes that prospect to the next step you want them to take. So as promised, let's talk about the number one mistake I see agency owners make over and over and over again that's killing their conversions. And that's putting more than one call to action on their closing page. I've seen it all. Links, follow us, DM us for more information, contact information, phone numbers, email address, website URLs. Too much information on the page. It seems like a good idea, but here's the problem. Too many options equals decision fatigue. And decision fatigue means friction for the prospect. Now your prospect has to choose how to contact you. Or worse, they have to copy your email address, drop it in their email service provider, draft an email to you, think about what to put in the email. It all gets too complicated. Instead, what you should do is what I mentioned before. Have one clear link that's a call to action. My favorite choice is a scheduling link, like a Calendly link, where they're just putting their information in and getting on your calendar, or it could be a booking form of some kind, something where it's easy for them to fill in their information, hit send, and it goes directly to you and the burden is off their plate. Give them one clear, simple path forward. Because if your deck does everything but lead them to action, then you're leaving that final decision up to chance. And trust me, when the next step is obvious, they're more likely to take it. And one pro tip, I like to include that call to action button or clickable link every 5 to 7 pages in the deck. That way, whenever your prospect is convinced, they can take the next step with you. No scrolling, no having to wait to get all the way to the end. So that's it. Those are the core slides and flow for your capabilities deck that's going to increase your conversions and make sure your agency is closing more clients. And if you're looking for expert support to help you with your deck, feel free to book a call with our team. I included that link in the description below as well. We'll get a feel for your agency on the call and see if it makes sense for us to work together. And finally, be sure to check out some of our other videos shown here for more tips on improving your capabilities deck and landing more clients.